Hi gamers! I wanted to give you my first impressions of the new Alliance raid Thaleia for anyone looking for that casual gamer point of view, while we wait for time and best practices to help me create the ASAP raid guide for your convenience. I'm not going to avoid the elephant in the room and instead get straight to the point. The Endwalker Alliance raids are, in my opinion, hands down the best Alliance raid series so far. From the very first one, I was in love with the aesthetic, glam, music, and content, and nothing has been able to change my mind. After Nier, which I found distant and alienating and confusing for me, someone who hasn't ever played the games, this was a welcome change. It focused entirely on Final Fantasy XIV lore and building the world, starting with one of the very first things each player did when they created their character, selecting their deity. Thaleia is gorgeous. I've run it twice, and though I was wide-eyed and practically giddy my first time through, it was almost better the second time around catching the first-timers' comments in Alliance chat. If you get the chance, take a good look around as you're running through. You won't be disappointed. Both times I ran it today I went as Astrologian, healer. The first run I died a distressing 9 times, but the second run only twice. The mechanics that you see make sense after you see them once or twice, though they do require some spatial reasoning in order to predict where they might land sometimes. These attacks tend to spell death for someone like me who has always had difficulty picturing things like that in my mind fast enough to make a correct decision and avoid the blow. I think my dislike of these particular kind of mechanics started during that room-spinning boss with the meteors. You know who you are. The fight locations, musical themes, and attack visuals are all incredibly complementary to the water-themed backdrop they are set in, which sets my inner Pisces into huge fan mode. The glam, a cross between Agalia's Greco-Roman theme and the crisp edge ice theme from Euphrosyne, is simply gorgeous. I panic-needed on the first healer piece I saw, but we had 2 healer tops drop in the next run, so I could have, probably should have, held out. But I guess there's always next week. This will be gear that I spend time farming for all of my classes when the restrictions are removed to have every class looking their best for Dawntrail. Sorry, comedy gear, you just don't do it for me. But I did remember to save my coin and took it straight to Razathan in order to augment my first piece of tome gear. I suppose I also need to comment on my thought process as I went through the raid. About 30% into the first boss, I was starting to worry that maybe criticisms I've had regarding the Endwalker Alliance raid difficulties may have been accurate. It didn't feel challenging at all, even to me. Well, wait for it. After that wake-up call, I was incredibly engaged with the fight from there on out. I even remarked as I was fighting that it felt like the dev team themselves had heard the feedback regarding the difficulty level of the previous 2 raids, and replied to us, in no uncertain terms, that if it was so easy, then we should have mastered them, as it started to throw all the mechanics back at us at the same time. At the end of the raid, I was satisfied. As content, I will undoubtedly do a minimum of once per week during restrictions, and guaranteed many more times after that to farm for glams. I'm happy with it. People can say what they want, and they do, about the dev team's recent decisions, but to me Thaleia is proof that they are willing to put 100% of their effort into what they do, and are continuing to hold quality over quantity in a market that pushes ever increasingly towards the latter. But what do you think? What was your first impressions of this raid? And if you haven't gotten there yet, how excited are you to give it a try? Shout out to my amazing patrons who support my ability to produce videos like this. Thank you for watching, gamers, and I'll see you in game.